Mr. Monds?
I think he's a clean guy.
Are you a germaphobe?
No.
Because I know you're scared. You were worried about my microphone. I'm here to tell you, I kiss different people all the time, so I work on my breath. I floss. My teeth are fine.
John Monds is the Georgia Libertarian gubernatorial candidate, and he asked me, Steve, interestingly enough, during the break, if any of us had been to Mexico recently.
Oh.
And it's a fair question, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on?
Right.
Why not?
Tell people what is going on.
Something about a little virus or...
Yeah. Now, if you were governor, what would you do about it in Georgia?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't overreact like what has been done in the past, in which you tell people to go out and get vaccines and things like that. But
I think it's being handled poorly.
Well...
The overreaction?
You don't want to overreact. And
what about the mask? Do you think it'll lead to crime if people started wearing the mask?
No, I don't think so.
No. Now, what would you do? Now, you're going to be running for governor. This is a big question. It's going to come up at some point.
Look, the race is like 18 months from now. He's dressed in a suit and tie. He's ready to go.
He's got your pin. You got a pin on. It's a great pin, by the way.
Lady Liberty. Yeah.
Yeah, Lady Liberty. Whatever happened to that? Liberty. Do you think they're going to take over our liberty through the swine flu crisis?
Well, I think the folks that are in power now and in the past, whatever opportunity they get, what they talk about, whenever there's a crisis, you got to take advantage of it. So,
yeah, never let a good crisis go to waste is the mantra.
So you just have to be, as people and citizens, you have to be vigilant against whatever, I guess, the state tells you.
Now, how do we do that? It's easy to say, be vigilant, but, what do we do? I mean, we've gone to a lot of people I know have gone to tea parties to protest, whether they're Democrat or Republican. I've seen all kinds out there, and they just want more freedom and they want less taxes. Now, how do you say be vigilant? Is it you're saying watch the news all the time? How do we be vigilant? And beyond being vigilant, kind of vigilant is being passive. What can we do aggressively to keep more of our money and get more of our freedom back? What do you suggest?
Well, first of all, I think you ought to just use common sense when you look at what's going on. You look at who's taking your money, first of all. And if you disagree, or if, part of the power of government comes from the consent of the people. So if we're upset about what's going on, we're the ones that ought to hold government accountable. And it's easy to do. Well, one aspect is going to the ballot box.
Yeah, but that's not coming for a while. I can't wait till 2010. I want to do something now.
Well, you can jump up and down.
All right.
You can hold your breath.
Hold my breath.
Until there's a change.
When you get into office, I say when, because I think you have a good shot.
You may not know this about this guy, but he got more votes than any other libertarian in the history of the Libertarian Party, anywhere, any state, any time, including Harry Brown and other presidential nominees.
That's good, but you got to beat, the big boys. And what are you going to do to beat the big boys? The Democrats and the Republicans are going to have their focus on beating you because you're just alone by yourself. You're just one guy. You don't have a big entourage. Libertarians don't have big entourages.
No, they don't, Dave.
Democrats and Republicans. So how are you going to beat them, and what are you going to do when you get in office? What's your main thing?
Well, you
get my vote.
You take your message to the people, and my message is going to be, first of all, when you talk about fiscally responsible, is I want to return more money to the people. And either it's going to be through spending cuts, tax cuts, because I believe those who earn the money ought to be the ones that decide how to spend the money.
All right, so how are you going to do that? How are you going to, what are you going to cut in spending? Give us an example.
Well,
because it's got to be pretty deep. You got a lot of debt.
Well, first of all, you have to go through the budget.
Yeah.
And typically with any bureaucracy, there's going to be waste in there. So what we're doing right now is just looking over the budget that just passed.
Like what cabinet? What area? What would you cut?
You talking about the nation or the state?
State of Georgia. Every state needs cutting. We all know that. Every government needs cutting. What would you cut?
Well,
specifically,
when you
MARTA, can we shut down MARTA? The train to nowhere that costs billions of taxpayer dollars. Nobody rides that. It's filled with crime. It moves bad people into good neighborhoods. Why don't you shut that down? That would be great.
Well, I think the money that goes to MARTA is a small percentage. When you look at what the state of Georgia spends money on, 55% of the budget goes to education. So that's going to be the first area you have to look at when you talk about making some cuts. whether it's taxes. You have to look at what's comparable to the other states around Georgia. You have to look at where we get our money from. Is either the sales tax, the income tax, or the corporate tax.
Well, how much would you cut? I mean, what would you do? Would you cut, just as an idea, let's say you're in there now, we've looked at it. We know what's going on. We've looked. Now what are we going to do? Are we going to shut down all the schools? Are we going to, let people give people coupons to go to a private school with the tax dollars that not going to, what do you do?
Well, one, you give people incentives or options as far as choices. You look at what I've spoke about previously. Most people think of education, all they think of is public schools. Mm-hmm. But you have 3 options when you look at educating your children. You have public schools, private schools, or homeschooling, which my wife and I do. So you have to look at giving people more options, especially in rural areas where you might only have currently one choice, like where I live. There's only public schools.
Or homeschool.
Or homeschools.
Yeah.
So, what gives people incentives to take more responsibility for their families and for their children? So maybe it's going to be tax credits. There's already a law in the books right now that gives you certain tax credits that go towards education. We might look at expanding that. You have to look at now the problem I have with vouchers.
Can't you just be when you're governor? Now I'm going to say this to you in all honesty. Here's why libertarians have trouble winning in all the states. It's because the Democrats and Republicans, they have friends in the legislature. As a libertarian, you're going to be facing all these hostile Democrats and Republicans. You'll have no allies, is what I'm saying, to get this job done. The governor's not, as you know, a dictator.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, so how are you going to get all this stuff done once you get in if the Democrats and Republicans are just, they'll shut you down?
Well, first of all, if you look at my being elected as a libertarian, I think that would send a message to the legislature about what the people feel.
Right.
And in the position of governor and the powers of governor, you have to look at, one, having veto power. So it's not like the legislature can just go in and oppose every idea that I would have, because they would want to get some things done that they want to do. So, I mean, you have to hold that. I guess
hold it over their head.
Over their head. Yeah, you hold that over their head.
All right, but once you go in there like Obama, I don't like what he's doing, but you got to give him credit. He's going in there and he's doing what he wants to do. Even if he has to be perceived as a dictator, he doesn't care. He doesn't seem to really care.
Yeah, he's got what you just said we wouldn't have, which is
he has allies. And plus he has allies.
Right.
But he's acting as if he doesn't have any allies. He's just going ahead and doing what he wants to do. Why didn't you? Would you do? I think you have to make bold moves, right?
Well, a lot of what you look at the situation with the governor, though, a lot of laws that are in place now. I mean, it takes the legislature to make some changes, but
right.
there is one change that the governor can make, and that's cutting the state millage rate, and that's something I'm looking.
You want to cut the state military?
Millage rate? No.
Millage rate.
Back up. No, that wasn't me.
Military. That's a. All right. Well, listen, we're running out of time, but real quick before we go, what is your bumper sticker slogan? Because those are very popular with voters these days.
They love them.
Hope and Eric's got less taxes,
more freedom.
And if Steve were running, it would be lower taxes, higher heels. That's his.
Smaller government, less taxes, more individual freedom. And I just say go to votemonds.com, put a plug in for myself, check out the website. We're working on it, getting the issues out there. So just give us a look. If you're unhappy with
votemonds.com.
Votemonds.com.
MONDS.
MONDS. If you're unhappy with what's being done in the state right now, you ought to look to an alternative. And I think, like I said earlier, returning people's money back to their households, letting them be the decision makers. I think that's the key when you look at economic stimulus and all these words that are going around. But let people be in charge and make their own choices. And government's not the answer. That's
right.
People look to government, well, what are you going to do? And one thing would be definitely less than what these other guys have been doing.
These clowns. All right, John Monds, great to meet you, sir.
I appreciate you having me.
You're a Libertarian Georgia governor candidate.